I found my bully a long time later, about 8 years, and I decide to figure out exactly what he's doing in life. And when I find out that he's going through a really tough time, I don't seek him for help or for forgiveness for what he did to me. I seek him for one thing, and that one thing is revenge. A lot of people are going to call me an a-hole for this story, but you know what? I'll let you judge when you hear it all.
High school. Some say it's the best 4 years of your life. For me, it was an endless cycle of torment, thanks to Cole and his merry band of miscreants. I've mostly been a quiet, laid-back kind of guy, but the problem with being quiet. Sometimes people think you're weak, and I think Cole saw me as an easy target. He never missed a chance to poke fun at me or make my life miserable. One day, during our junior year, I was minding my own darn business, walking down the hallway when I felt something hit me on the back, right there on the back of my pants. I dismissed it, not really thinking it was anything, but when I reached the classroom, I started to feel a wetness on my backside, and by the time I sat down, my entire backside was soaked. Turned out, I got a glimpse of Cole, water bottle in hand, a hole poked at the top. He was squeezing it, directing a stream of water at unsuspecting victims, and there he was, laughing hysterically with his buddies in the hallway, relishing the sight of me sitting uncomfortably in wet jeans. I had to endure an entire class period like that. The whispers, the giggles, and only adding to the embarrassments. That's just one instance I'm giving you an example of. There were countless others. Cole had this knack for coming up with nicknames that would stick out. He started calling me Wet Pants after the water bottle incident, and before that it was Geek Squad, because I once helped a teacher set up her projector. Or my favorite, Silent Bob, because I didn't talk much. Each name served as a constant reminder of his relentless bullying. His buddies were no better. They'd join in on the name-calling and pranks, and if Cole wasn't there to initiate it, one of them would, and it would always just take shifts just to make sure I never had a moment's peace. They would trip me in the hallways, hide my books, or stick gum on my seat. All the while, Cole would be there orchestrating the entire plot. But I'd say the most frustrating part, the teachers never seemed to notice, or maybe they just chose to ignore it. Cole was a mastermind at keeping his antics just below the radar. He would play the innocent card whenever confronted, painting me as a paranoid one, and I quote, "Just some friendly banter," he would say with a smirk. His friends would back him up, creating this facade that it was all just harmless fun. I'd have these internal debates where I tried to justify their actions, thinking maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew that wasn't normal. No one should feel this way going to school, constantly on edge, waiting for the next humiliation. I tried to stand up to Cole multiple times, but every time I did, it just seemed to fuel this determination to make my life hell. It was as if he thrived on seeing me react, using it as evidence to prove how, quote, weak I was. I've often thought about retaliation. Maybe pulling a prank of my own on him for once, or exposing him for the bully that he is. But I never got the courage to. I was always worried about the repercussions, that it would escalate things even further, and honestly, I did not want to stoop to his level, but I want to ask you guys, what would you do? Update number 1. First of all, thank you everybody who responded to my original post. Your support and kind words meant a lot during this time. I wish I had better news to report, but the situation's taken a much darker turn. As we approached graduation, I had hoped things would calm down. I'd been dreaming of the day for years, a time when I'd no longer have to face Cole and his band of tormentors. I've just been trying to keep my head down and count the days, but life had other plans for me. My mom was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to process, and well, seeing her strength as she braces herself for the challenges ahead has been both inspiring and heart-wrenching. We were blindsided by the cost of treatment, even with insurance, so I started a GoFundMe campaign on social media in hopes of offsetting some of the financial burden, but boys, that was a big mistake. Somehow, word of mouth about my mom's diagnosis and the fundraiser, it spread to Cole. Instead of showing an ounce of human decency or compassion, he saw it as an opportunity. An opportunity to kick me when I was already down. One morning, as I was locking my locker, Cole swaggered up with that familiar malicious grin. Hey, wet pants, heard about your mommy. Guess cancer's doing the world a favor by getting rid of the weak ones. I felt like I was sucker punched. I blinked away tears, trying to keep my composure, and I told Cole right to his face to shut the hell up. I managed to say with my voice quivering, but he was far from done. What's the matter? Can't handle the truth, big boy. Why don't you go cry to your sick mommy about it? Well, that comment caused a collective gasp in the hallway as onlookers gathered around. Some looked on with pity, others with amusement to see what would happen next, but I felt trapped. The weight of the stairs pressing down on me, and trying to defend my mother's honor, I took a deep breath, and I stood up to him. You have no idea what you're talking about, Cole. Show some damn respect. With that, he leaned in, getting right to my face with his voice dripping with mock concern. What are you going to do? Call your sick mother? And his friends joined in, their laughter echoing the hallway. I was surrounded by a sea of cruel grins, all relishing in misery. I wanted to scream, shout, or even hit him. But deep down, I knew that fighting with him was not an option. Not only was Cole physically bigger than me, but resorting to violence would not change anything. I felt powerless. Throughout the day, whispers followed me, and some kids expressed sympathy and others joined in on the ridicule. It was a nightmare, every comment, every snicker, felt like salt in an open wound, and all I wanted was for the day, no, for the school year to be over. I was counting the hours until graduation when I could finally leave this hellhole and people like Cole behind. It did not stop there, though. Cole would send me direct messages through social media and Instagram, making fun of my mother, and wishing her the worst type of fate, and just making me feel worse about the situation at hand. I don't know how much more I can take, guys. Every day feels like a battle, and I'm exhausted. The thought of my mom going through chemo while I'm dealing with this is overwhelming. I wish Cole would just leave me alone, but he seems hell-bent on making my life as miserable as possible. Thank you, everybody who supported me through this journey. I promise to update you soon. Update number 2. First, I'd like to extend my heartfelt thank you to everybody who's been with me during these updates. Your kindness and support during these tough times of my life, well, I can't thank you enough. 7 years. Yup. It's strange how time can fly. The scars of my high school days, the persistent memories of being tormented by Cole and his crew still occasionally surface, but life has a funny way of propelling you forward, and I'm grateful for every moment that distances me from those agonizing memories of the past. I've been trying to rebuild my life, trying to stitch together the fragments left by my mother's passing. We were blessed to have received so many donations on the GoFundMe, which not only helped with her treatment, but also gave us these, 3 invaluable years together before cancer took her from me. Those 3 years were the most bittersweet moments of my life. While I cherished every second with her, there was always that looming shadow of her impending departure. And recently, while mindlessly scrolling through social media, a familiar name caught my eye. It was old Cole. And what followed was something I could not have anticipated. There was a GoFundMe link in his profile, and to my shock it was for his wife, who was battling breast cancer. The irony was almost too much to handle. Emotions took over me, and there was an initial bit of anger, a bitter reminder of the torments that he heaped upon me during our high school days, using my mother's illness as a cruel joke. But that was mixed with a strange sense of empathy. If there was anything I knew, it was the pain and helplessness that came with watching a loved one fight this terrible disease. However, what followed was something I deeply regret. A momentary lapse of judgment propelled by years of pent-up resentment, revenge. I remember saving all those messages that he sent me through DMs on social media, taunting me about my mother's condition. I've saved them as a form of evidence should I ever need them. Well, but now they felt like a weapon. A weapon. And in a fit of anger, I compiled them into an album and sent them to him with the words, "Karma. She's a real hell of a girl, isn't she?" The moment I hit send, guilt washed over me. What had I done? That was not the person I wanted to be. I sat there, just staring at the check marks that indicated he's seen the message, anxiously awaiting a reply, but there was nothing. Silence. No retort, no acknowledgement. Nothing. As I reflect on this, I can't shake the feeling that I may have sunk to his level. I allowed the past to dictate my actions, binding me to the big picture, and I know what it's like to be in his shoes. Part of me feels absolutely terrible for adding to his misery, yet there's that vindictive part of me that feels like he deserved a taste of his own damn medicine. So here I am, laying it out for you guys, seeking your perspective and advice. Final update. Thank you to everybody who stood by my side throughout this wild ride. Lots of emotions and experiences, but I'm reaching out once again. A mere 6 weeks after my last update, but it feels like a lifetime's passed. I've already updated you about Cole's wife and why I came back for an update at all. The weight of guilt on my shoulders has been unbearable. While I knew Cole had read the messages I sent him, he never directly replied. Instead, what followed was a torrent of messages from his friends and family, accusing me of being heartless and cruel during such a vulnerable period in Cole's life. A part of me wanted to justify my actions, to scream at them, to make them understand the years of torment I endured at Cole's hands. However, another part of me, perhaps the more rational side, knew that they had a point. My sleep's been plagued with restless nights, and it's as if the past and present are constantly battling within me. The once timid high schooler, who silently bore the brunt of Cole's cruelty, had finally found his voice, but at what cost? I can't shake off the feeling that my mother, the epitome of kindness and grace, would be so damn disappointed in me. She was always the one to preach forgiveness, to rise above hate, to be the big person, and here I was, allowing years of pent-up revenge cloud my judgment, yet there was a small defiant part of me that reveled in, the knowledge that for once Cole might be understanding the gravity of his past actions. I wanted him to feel the sting, to experience a fragment of the humiliation I felt all those years ago. And while I genuinely hope his wife comes over this disease and they do find happiness, I can't deny it. I feel satisfaction. I do. On the other end of torment, even if it's for a fleeting moment, I felt it. Some might say it's karma, the universe having its strange way of righting wrongs, and perhaps this was my moment to level the playing field. And maybe I knocked it out of the park. So here I am, bearing my soul to all you, asking from your perspective of a stranger. I'm torn between this. Am I the a-hole for sending that message to Cole, reminding him of his past cruelty when he was in such a dire situation? Let me know. Comment number 1 from the original post and the updates. I have to admit, I'm taken aback by OP's reaction. 7 years is a long time to nurse such bitterness. I'm surprised that OP even came back for an update after so long. Granted, what Cole did in high school was undeniably wrong and hurtful, but kids can be cruel before they mature into understanding adults. We're talking almost a whole decade later. We all have our moments of immaturity during our teenage years, but now? OP, you should have been the bigger person, let bygones be bygones, and just moved on. Holding on to grudges and acting on them as an adult is just not productive. Sorry, OP, but in this situation, I'd say yes, you are the a-hole. Comment number 2. Honestly, I can't blame OP here. If somebody made fun of my mother, especially during such a trying time, I'd carry that hurt for a long time. What's happening to Cole's wife is a classic example of karma, coming around full circle in a full moon at night. Well, I hope that this experience changes Cole and makes him reflect on his past behavior. OP, you're not the a-hole here. Cole was undeniably the a-hole 7 years ago, and it's high time he realized it. Comment number 3. Come on, guys, how could you pick anything else besides everyone sucks here? Clearly, what Cole did to OP during high school was beyond messed up, and OP should have just reported him to the school authorities, but seriously, OP holding on to such resentment for 7 years, and then retaliating in a similar manner, it's just, I don't know, it's not justifying or mature. Both parties are completely in the wrong here and need to reflect on their actions.
So we just read some of the comments, and a lot of them have mixed opinions and mixed emotions about this. For the most part, they're on OP's side, but a lot of people were saying, hey, this was almost a decade later. You guys aren't kids anymore. Yeah, we understand the bully was very toxic and a bad person to talk about your mother like that, but to go back and do the same thing to your bully all these years later after you have both matured and grew up, and even the fact that OP said his own mother would not be proud of this moment, it makes you wonder, did OP make the right choice? So I want to ask you guys that question. Drop your thoughts down below in the comment section, but that's not all, guys. Today's story is not over. We do have a story number 2 of today's video, and I will read you the title for video 2. It is this: Am I the a-hole for getting my daughter's teacher fired after suspecting an affair with my husband? And let me just tell you, this story gets oh so juicy. Let's jump into it.
Hey everyone, I'm a 26-year-old mother who just started, my daughter, Leia, in 1st grade. This new school year has been a whirlwind, and to top it all off, I feel like my relationship with my husband Blake has been changing. We've been married for 5 years, and for the most part, things have been good. Lately, with Blake working a typical 9-to-5 office job, and me working from home shipping out chic bed sheets, our lives have been insanely hectic. It feels like I rarely get time to myself, and our schedules are so misaligned, and it feels like we only see each other during dinner time and the late hours of the night. Weekends, well, that's not any better. Blake is always out with his friends, while Leia and I spend time with her friends and their parents. I miss the days when Blake and I used to spend entire nights out together, laughing, chit-chatting about everything and nothing at all, but ever since we got married and had Leia, our us time dwindled. It's not that I regret having our beautiful daughter or anything related to our current life, but I do yearn for those moments of connection with my husband. So, as part of the new school year preparations, I met with Leia's teachers. It was a routine meeting until I started talking to her homeroom teacher, Tracy. She perked up when she saw our last name and asked if we were related to Blake. I said, yeah, that's my husband, and Leia is our daughter. Tracy looked genuinely surprised, but then quickly shifted to happiness, mentioning she and Blake went to high school together. She added, "He's a wonderful guy." I smiled, grateful for the kind words about Blake, and feeling somewhat comforted that someone familiar was around my daughter. That evening, I mentioned to Blake that one of his old classmates was teaching Leia's class. At first, he seemed a bit taken aback, but when I said Tracy's name, his reaction was, dare I say, odd? His eyes widened and he began asking numerous questions about how she's doing, what she looked like, if she remembered him. I told him she looked fine and reiterated that what was discussed regarding Leia's upcoming school year, nothing more. While cleaning up that night, I could not help but overthink his reaction. It seemed overly enthusiastic and a bit curious. I tried to brush it off, reminding myself that it's only natural to show interest in somebody from your past. Still, there was this nagging feeling in the back of my mind, a little seed of doubt. I don't want to make mountains out of a molehill, but I can't shake off this weird feeling. I can't. Blake and I have always had trust in each other's relationship, and I don't want to be that overly suspicious spouse. I haven't brought up my concerns to Blake yet, mainly because I don't want to come off as a jealous or somebody accusing over what could be simple, innocent reaction. Guys, am I overthinking things, or was this a serious red flag I need to pay attention to? Let me know. I'll update you later. Update number 1. Sorry guys, I lost track of time, but here I am, and I'm giving you an update 6 weeks after I've last posted. Life's been nothing short of crazy. I've been so swamped with work and the last-minute school clothing shopping for Leia. By the end of each day, I feel entirely drained, and it seems like Blake has taken notice, or so I thought. A few weeks ago, Blake offered to take over the morning school drop-offs for Leia. Given our history, where the bulk of parenting was shouldered by me, this offer was genuinely surprising. I initially thought maybe Blake realized my exhaustion and wanted to step up. I was very appreciative, thinking perhaps he was just trying to bond with our daughter and ease my burden, but after a few weeks, things took a turn. One day, while I was at school picking up Leia, I had a brief chit-chat with Tracy about Leia's assignment for the week. I noticed Tracy's phone on the desk. I wasn't intentionally prying, but when a message popped up, I could not help but catch a glimpse. It was from a contact named Blake, with a heart emoji next to it. I tried to convince myself, Blake, that's a common name. It could be anybody. It's surely not the Blake I know. Or perhaps he's taken her number for some school-related reason, but my gut told me otherwise. That evening, once Blake returned home from work, he jumped into the shower, and my curiosity piqued. I decided to look through his phone. Yeah, I know, invasion of privacy, blah, blah, blah. I did it, and I don't care. What I found, though, was gut-wrenching. Flirtatious text messages were exchanged between him and Tracy, with mentions of old times and rekindling, and then, as I scrolled further back, I came across a revelation. Tracy was not just an old classmate, they dated. They dated in high school, and it was hot and steamy. My heart pounded as I tried to digest this information, and all the pieces began to fit like a puzzle. His odd reaction when I first mentioned her name, the sudden interest in dropping off Leia, and their secretive text message exchanges. When Blake came out of the shower, I could not contain my fury. I threw his phone at him, demanding an explanation, and he looked at me with eyes wide, realizing his secret is up. I yelled at him for not only betraying me, but using our daughter as an excuse to see his little ex-girlfriend. How could a father manipulate his child in such a despicable manner? He stood there, fumbling his words, and I was not going to stand there waiting for a response, so I took Leia and left. I wasn't going to let her be a pawn in this deceitful game. We checked into a hotel for the night as Leia slept peacefully beside me. I laid awake, struggling with a flurry of emotions, betrayal, sadness, anger, confusion. I could go on. Blake's attempts to contact me were in vain. I wasn't ready to talk, let alone see him. I needed some time to process everything and decide the next steps. Leia's my primary concern now, no matter what the outcome. I want to ensure that she remains unaffected by our adult mess. My life feels like it's falling apart, and I have no clue what to do. Update number 2, 2 weeks later. 2 weeks have passed since the bombshell. The days have been a blur of a mixture of heartbreak, anger, and hope, and I've moved Leia and myself to a one-bedroom apartment. It's not ideal, but it's temporary and, well, until we figure things out. Yesterday, Blake and I met up to discuss our next steps. He seemed remorseful and tried to explain himself, saying, hearing Tracy's name that night at dinner table brought back memories from high school. Once he had tucked away for years, but he was quick to add that they did not cross any boundaries beyond flirtatious text messages. Part of me wanting to believe him, but another part questioned if things would escalate, if he had not been caught. Regardless, the trust was shattered. I made a difficult decision to seek a divorce. It's not out of vengeance, but rather the understanding that our relationship's foundation has been rocked. We both agreed not to tell Leia until the papers were signed. She's too young to understand the intricacies of adult emotions. I still feel a torrent of anger towards Blake, but there's a glimmer of appreciation for him owning up to his mistakes. He's trying, and I genuinely hope he continues being a wonderful father to Leia, regardless of our personal dynamics. As for Tracy, the teacher-turned-homewrecker, I could not let her actions go unaddressed. Shortly after discovering the deception, I marched up to the school and laid everything bare to the principal. A parent-teacher meeting was called that very afternoon, and sitting in that meeting room, I could feel the weight of every emotion I had pent up. I let Tracy have it. The betrayal, the audacity of her actions, and the impact it had on my family. How could you? How could you, as an educator, do this to a family, especially to one of your students? Throughout the meeting, the principal looked gravely at Tracy with disappointment evident. Tracy attempted to defend herself with these feeble excuses, but each one fell flat. It was clear she had no moral ground to stand on. Before the meeting concluded, the principal turned to me and said, Miss, I assure we'll handle you with this internally. You and Leia are valued members of our school community, and we regret this unfortunate incident. I requested a new teacher for Leia swiftly, and to my relief, he said, don't worry, Miss Tracy will be replaced by the end of the week. As I left the school, a mix of bitterness washed over me, and the next time I drop Leia off, I hope not to see any trace of Tracy. Well, I'm starting to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. There's still much to navigate. I'll update you again. Maybe. Update number 3. Final update. Life is unpredictable. The past 2 months have been nuts, but things are slowly falling into place because the ink on the divorce papers dried up, and the cracks that once marred my life are starting to heal. I've adjusted to our chaotic, yet now somewhat predictable schedule. Blake has custody of Leia for 2 days a week, mostly the weekends. I noticed a change in him. He's been making a more concerted effort to be there for Leia. Part of me wonders if it's guilt or if it's genuine change. Maybe it's a mix of both. Regardless, Leia's happiness is my main concern, and seeing her thrive with both her parents separately involved is a comfort. Then there's the matter of Leia's new teacher. He's a kind, older gentleman full of zeal and passion for teaching. Every morning he greets the children with a vibrant smile, and with his infectious enthusiasm that I even find heartwarming. His classroom is a hub of creativity and a stark contrast to Tracy's style. I genuinely feel at ease, knowing that he's the one guiding Leia's learning journey. Speaking of Tracy, something unexpected happened, though. One evening, after picking up Leia from school, we decided to treat ourselves to some fast food. As we pulled up to the drive-thru, I was casually glancing about, and my heart skipped a beat when I recognized a familiar face in the back kitchen area. Tracy. She's donning that fast food uniform, drenched in sweat, flipping burgers and attending to fries. Well, part of me felt a twist of satisfaction. Perhaps this was karma for the havoc that she wreaked in my life. But as I drove away, well, I don't know. I felt a bit of sympathy. Tracy, once a respected teacher, was now toiling in fast food kitchens, and perhaps she was paying the price for her indiscretions. I debated for days whether to share this with anybody, and one evening, while having a glass of wine with my best friend, I narrated the entire incident, and she chuckled, raising her glass. "To karma?" she exclaimed, but I could not shake off the guilt. So guys, as I pin down my last update, the lingering question is the last thing I'll write. Am I the a-hole for feeling satisfied about Tracy's apparent downfall and possibly playing an effort of a part in it? Let me know what you think. Comment number 1 of the entire post. I'm totally with OP on this one. I mean, Blake was actively trying to reconnect with an old flame while being committed to somebody else, and for Tracy to entertain and flirt back, knowing full well that he's married, is beyond messed up. The audacity of some people. OP, you did nothing wrong. Comment 2. Man, what was Blake even thinking? Using his own daughter as an excuse to see Tracy? That's just messed up on so many levels. How can he even consider himself a good father after pulling a stunt like that? Comment number 3. While I empathize with OP being hurt, I'm genuinely surprised by the rush to divorce. Blake made a mistake, yeah, but it wasn't even a physical affair. Divorce should be the last resort, especially when kids are involved. They're the real victims in these situations. In my opinion, more effort should have been taken to repair the marriage. OP, you are the a-hole. Everyone's human, and we all make mistakes. Don't see any real a-holes here that stick out that much, but if I have to pick, it's going to be OP.
In my opinion, the first commenter makes the most sense, and I'll read it again. I'm totally with OP on this one. I mean, Blake was actively trying to reconnect with an old flame, while being committed to somebody else, and for Tracy to entertain and flirt back, knowing full well that he's married, is beyond messed up. The audacity of some people. OP, you did nothing wrong. That's my opinion, and if you guys don't agree with me, let me know your thoughts, and let me know exactly which comment you side with the most. Drop it down below in our comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every day, and right now you're on Mr. Reddito's Revenge channel, where every story has something to do with karma or revenge. If you guys want daily videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, and just remember one thing, it's cool to be kind. Peace.